Welcome back to Elderly Guidance, and welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and really dig into what's most important for you. For this deep dive, we're tackling something, well, many of us rely on pretty much every morning oatmeal. It seems so simple, doesn't it? Just add water or maybe milk and heat it up. But our sources reveal a surprising amount of hidden complexity and some common pitfalls that honestly could be sabotaging the health benefits we think we're getting.
Absolutely. Oatmeal is, it's lauded as a superfood, and for good reason. Its benefits are pretty wide-ranging, lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, helping digestion, even weight management. But what's fascinating and maybe a little concerning is the statistic our sources point to. Potentially over 80% of people eating it daily might be making mistakes that unknowingly strip away a lot of those benefits.
80%. Wow, that's huge for something we all think is so straightforwardly healthy. Okay, so let's really unpack this. Our mission today is to dive into those common mistakes highlighted in your sources. And crucially, figure out the simple, practical fixes so our oatmeal actually is that health powerhouse it's supposed to be. Think of this as like a shortcut to making your healthy routine even healthier.
Exactly. And look, if digging into these kinds of insights from your sources is valuable for you, maybe consider subscribing to the deep dive. It's really the best way to make sure you don't miss out on future explorations that matter for your health.
Right. So before we get into what can go wrong, let's just quickly touch on why oatmeal is such a cornerstone food, especially as we age. What do the sources really emphasize about its core benefits?
Well, it's remarkably nutrient-dense for its calorie count. That's the first thing. Even a small serving packs a good punch of magnesium, which is vital for nerves and muscles. Plus iron, essential for oxygen transport, zinc for immunity, and those B vitamins. They support everything from skin and hair to just keeping your energy level steady.
And then there's the fiber, right? That special kind, beta-glucan, that seems really key.
Oh, absolutely key. This isn't just any old fiber. When beta-glucan hits your gut, it forms this sort of gel.
Oh,
And this gel is incredibly effective. It helps lower LDL, that's the bad cholesterol. It helps improve blood pressure, and it really stabilizes blood sugar levels. That's so important for consistent energy managing conditions later in life. And it also feeds your good gut bacteria, so it supports overall digestive wellness.
and I read something about unique antioxidants specific to oats.
Yes, a specific group called avenanthramides. They're pretty potent. They help reduce inflammation throughout the body, improve blood flow, and protect your cells from free radical damage. So these effects can help stave off age-related diseases, but sources also suggest they kind of play a role in the body's natural repair processes, slowing aging, essentially.
Plus, it keeps you feeling full longer, right? Helps manage weight because you get that steady energy, less craving. So putting it all together, what does this mean for someone trying to build, like, a solid health foundation?
In short, properly prepared oatmeal, it lays a really robust foundation. Cardiovascular health, gut health, metabolic balance, antioxidant protection. It's a surprisingly comprehensive package, really. But this is the crucial part the sources emphasize. Because it works in these fundamental ways, even seemingly small preparation habits can massively impact whether you actually get those benefits or, accidentally undermine them. Let's dive into where things tend to go wrong.
Okay, let's do it. Starting with what many of us might be adding into the bowl. Mistake number one, adding too much sugar, syrup, or those artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, this one's sneaky. What seems like just a little sprinkle, maybe a drizzle of maple syrup, can turn a healthy breakfast into, well, a sugar bomb. Instead of that nice, slow energy release from the complex carbs, you get this rapid blood sugar spike. And what goes up must come down, right?
Yep.
So you get the inevitable crash. That leaves you feeling tired, sluggish, and often, ironically, craving more sugar soon after.
And doing that regularly. It's not just about feeling tired in the morning, is it? There are longer-term things.
Oh, definitely. Consistently high sugar intake like that, it increases your risk of insulin resistance, it contributes to weight gain, ups the chances of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular issues, and over time, it can actually weaken your immune response and promote inflammation. Basically turns a good thing into a source of stress for your body.
So the simple fix, what do the sources suggest?
Prioritize natural sweetness from whole foods. Like ripe mashed banana is great for creaminess and sweetness. Diced apples, fresh berries, perfect. And things like cinnamon or pure vanilla extract. They enhance that perception of sweetness without actually adding sugar.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, following on from added sugar, mistake number two seems related. Using those pre-flavored instant oatmeal packets, the convenience factor is strong there.
It really is. But, oh boy, the hidden sugar. These packets are notorious. Some sources point out they can have 15, even 20 grams or more per tiny serving. That's like 4 or 5 teaspoons of sugar.
Wow.
And it's not just the sugar. They often pack in artificial flavors, preservatives, sometimes hydrogenated oils, and quite a bit of sodium, too, all to get that specific taste and shelf life.
So what looks like a quick, maybe even heart-healthy breakfast on the box is actually...
Yeah, pretty much the opposite. It becomes a cocktail of sugar and additives. Despite the marketing, you're likely getting those erratic blood sugar swings, energy crashes hitting sooner, and you're increasing your risk of those long-term chronic health issues we just talked about, all hidden in that convenient little packet.
The alternative seems pretty clear then.
Start with plain, unflavored oats. Rolled oats, the old-fashioned kind or steel-cut oats are fantastic choices. Then you control what goes in. Build your own flavor naturally, fruit, cinnamon, vanilla. Or if you absolutely need a touch of sweetness, maybe a tiny drizzle of actual raw honey or pure maple syrup. But be really mindful of the amount.
Right. Okay, here's one I hadn't really thought about as much. Mistake number 3, focusing only on the carbs and fiber and forgetting protein.
Yes, oatmeal is wonderful for complex carbs and fiber, definitely. But it's naturally quite low in protein, and protein is just crucial. It helps stabilize blood sugar even more effectively than carbs alone. It's essential for maintaining muscle mass, especially as we get older. And, importantly, it makes you feel truly satisfied and full after eating.
So a bowl of just oats cooked with water or plant milk? It might taste fine, but it could leave you hungry again pretty quickly.
Exactly. You might find yourself reaching for a snack mid-morning. The sources use a good analogy. It's like building a house without a sturdy frame. The carbs are the walls, but without the protein structure, it's just less stable. Leads to quicker hunger, those blood sugar swings. And over time, relying on low-protein meals can contribute to feeling sluggish and make it harder to hang on to muscle mass. That's key for healthy aging, metabolism.
So what's the simple fix? How do we add that protein frame easily?
Just incorporate a protein source that doesn't need to be complicated. A tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flax stirred in adds protein and healthy fats. A small handful of nuts, almonds, walnuts sprinkled on top. Maybe a dollop of Greek yogurt mixed through for creaminess and protein. Or even just a hard-boiled egg on the side. Easy additions, big impact.
Okay, this is really practical stuff. We're about halfway through the mistakes here. And if you're finding these kinds of insights helpful, making the most of everyday foods, do consider subscribing to the Deep Dive. Your support really helps us keep bringing this detailed source-based analysis right to you. All right, so we've covered adding things to the oats. Now, what about just how much? Mistake number 4 is simply eating too large a portion.
Yeah, even healthy food can be overdone, right? It's easy to just pile that bowl high, especially if you love lots of toppings. But oats themselves are quite calorie-dense, and an oversized serving plus generous toppings can easily add up. Sometimes it's more calories than a decent lunch.
And it's not just the calories, is it? Too much fiber all at once can cause issues too.
It can, definitely, especially if your digestion is a bit sensitive or you're not used to that much fiber. Eating too much fiber in one go can lead to bloating, gas, just general discomfort, and potentially it might interfere a bit with absorbing certain minerals like iron and zinc. That heavy, sluggish feeling isn't just firmness, it can be digestive strain.
So what's a reasonable starting point? How much dry oats should we aim for?
The general recommendation from the sources is about half a cup of dry oats. That's usually around 40-50 grams. Once cooked, that yields a pretty substantial bowl, especially when you add your fruit, nuts, seeds, whatever. It's enough to be satisfying and nutrient-rich without overloading your system or your calorie budget for that meal.
Okay, portion control. Got it. Now, moving into how we actually prepare them. Mistake number 5 sounds subtle but important. Not soaking your oats.
Yeah, this is one a lot of people skip, maybe because it takes planning. But oats contain something called phytic acid. Phytic acid is often called an anti-nutrient. Basically, it can bind to minerals, iron, zinc, calcium in your gut, which makes it harder for your body to actually absorb those minerals from the oats and other foods you eat with them. Now, some phytic acid is normal, but if you're eating unsoaked oats regularly, especially if your diet isn't super rich in those minerals otherwise, it could potentially contribute to deficiencies over time.
And soaking them.
Yeah.
How easy is that, and what does it actually achieve?
Couldn't be simpler, really. You just put your oats in a bowl or jar, cover them with water or milk or a plant milk, cover it, stick it in the fridge for at least, say, 6 to 8 hours. Overnight is perfect. Soaking does a few things. It softens the oats, makes them way easier to digest, less bloating potential, and crucially, it helps break down a good amount of that phytic acid, so you improve your absorption of those important minerals.
Overnight oats are basically pre-soaked then.
Exactly. That's one of the big benefits of overnight oats. Besides convenience, they're already soaked and ready to go.
Okay, so soaking helps. What about the actual cooking? On the flip side, mistake 6 is eating oats that are undercooked.
Yes. If they aren't cooked through properly, they stay pretty tough and dense. Your digestive system just has to work a lot harder to break them down. And remember that amazing beta-glucan fiber. Well, it's less accessible and harder for your body to utilize effectively when the oats are still raw or barely cooked. That can definitely lead to bloating, gas, just digestive discomfort for some people.
Does the texture affect nutrient absorption too, like if it's too hard?
It can, yeah. While the nutrients are there, the really firm texture of undercooked oats means your body might not be able to fully access and absorb all the vitamins and minerals quite as efficiently as it could from properly softened oats.
So how do you know when they're cooked right? What's the goal?
You want them tender and soft, like a creamy porridge-like consistency. Usually that means simmering them gently with enough liquid, starting with water, remember, until they reach that nice, soft texture. If you're microwaving, stir them often to make sure they cook evenly. And maybe add a little extra liquid so they don't dry out before getting soft.
Got it. Now, mistake 7 is the opposite problem. Overcooking them, turning it into that thick, gummy, gluey mess.
Yeah, we've probably all been there. It doesn't just ruin the texture, though. It can actually lessen some of the nutritional benefits, too. When oats get super mushy and overcooked, they can digest faster than intended. So you lose some of that slow, sustained energy release and that feeling of fullness. Might find yourself hungry again sooner.
And nutrients get lost with too much heat.
Yes, prolonged cooking, especially at really high heat, which can happen if you're, like, boiling it aggressively or cook it too long, can degrade some vitamins, particularly the heat-sensitive B vitamins in oats.
So what's the sweet spot? How do we get that perfect texture without going too far?
Cook them just until they're soft and tender, but still have a bit of, like, creamy fluidity, not stiff or stodgy. If you really prefer a very smooth texture, maybe consider using instant or quick oats. They're designed for that. Trying to cook rolled or steel-cut oats into absolute mush isn't ideal. You want a bit of life left in the bowl, not something resembling wallpaper paste.
Okay. Good visual. Now, this next one ties into cooking, too. Mistake number 8. Using the wrong liquid or maybe using it at the wrong time, like cooking in milk from the start.
Right, this is super common. The sources point out that if you cook oats directly in milk right from the beginning, especially if you simmer it, the protein in the milk can react with the starch in the oats, and that reaction tends to create a much thicker, stickier, heavier texture than you might want. It kind of loses that natural lightness and creaminess you can get otherwise.
Does boiling the milk affect its nutrients, too?
Well, high heat can slightly degrade some vitamins in the milk itself, yeah.
Yeah.
And it impacts the overall final texture and maybe nutrient profile of the dish.
So what's the better way to get a really nice, creamy bowl without the stickiness?
The recommended method is actually to cook the oats mainly with water first. Get them almost tender. Then, just in the last minute or two of cooking, or even after you take it off the heat, stir in your milk or plant-based milk. This lets the oats soften properly in the water without that protein-starch reaction happening too early. You end up with a much lighter, smoother, richer consistency.
Interesting. Okay, mistake number 9, skipping the salt. This sounds counterintuitive for health food, right? But skipping salt is a mistake.
It really is. It sounds so minor, but it often leads to just bland oatmeal. Flat tasting. A tiny pinch of salt, we're talking really small, doesn't just make it taste salty. It fundamentally enhances all the other flavors. It brings out the natural, subtle sweetness of the oats themselves. And it makes any toppings you add, like fruit or nuts or cinnamon, taste more vibrant, more integrated.
And adding it at the beginning is key.
Yes, that's crucial. Add that little pinch right when you start cooking with the water and oats. That allows the salt to dissolve evenly and really permeate the oat grains as they absorb the liquid. It seasons the oatmeal from the inside out, creating a much richer base flavor, which honestly can mean you feel less need to load up on sugar or artificial flavors later to make it taste good.
Makes sense. Flavor foundation. Okay, final mistake, number 10, and this feels like a bigger picture one, relying solely on oatmeal, like making it your only healthy food focus day in, day out.
Exactly. While oatmeal is fantastic, incredibly nutrient-dense for what it is, it's just not a complete nutritional package all by itself. It lacks significant amounts of certain things, like high-quality, easily absorbed protein, essential healthy fats, especially omega-3s, certain crucial vitamins like B12, that's a big one, especially if you're plant-based and not supplementing carefully, And the most usable form of iron often comes from animal sources.
So just eating oatmeal every single morning, even if it's prepared perfectly, might leave some nutritional gaps over time.
It absolutely can. If oatmeal is pretty much your entire nutritional strategy for breakfast, or even a major part of your diet without variety, those cumulative gaps, those potential deficiencies, could eventually lead to issues. Things like decreased energy, maybe impacting memory or focus, a weaker immune system, difficulty maintaining muscle. It's great food, but it needs team players.
So what's a solution? How do we make sure we're covering all the bases?
Variety and pairing. It goes back to some earlier points, really. Like we said with the protein mistake. Pair your boats. Add nuts or seeds for fats and protein, berries for vitamins and antioxidants. Stir in that yogurt or have an egg alongside. And importantly, look beyond breakfast. Make sure your other meals throughout the day are diverse. Lots of different vegetables, fruits, legumes, lean proteins, healthy fats from various sources. Think of oatmeal as a fantastic component of a healthy diet, not the entire diet itself. It really does highlight how, even with something as familiar as oatmeal, the details matter, don't they? How we choose it, prepare it, combine it, it makes a huge difference. So the key takeaways from the sources seem pretty clear for getting the most out of it. Start with plain oats, always add some protein and healthy fat. Get the cooking method right, water first, not too long, not too short. Consider soaking them. Don't forget that tiny pinch of salt for flavor. Watch your portion size. And maybe most importantly, see it as part of a very nutrient-rich diet, not the whole story.
Yeah, it really boils down to making those small, informed tweaks to a daily habit. But those small tweaks can have a really big impact on your overall health, it seems, leveraging that foundational goodness properly.
Exactly. Sustainable health, it isn't usually about huge, drastic changes. It's built on consistently making better choices in those simple everyday things, like how you make your breakfast.
Hmm. That actually raises a really interesting question for you, the listener, to maybe think about based on all this. Given these common mistakes and the simple fixes we've discussed, how might making just one or two specific changes to how you prepare your morning oatmeal actually alter your experience? Not just the taste or the texture, but maybe how it makes you feel, how you function throughout the rest of your day. Something to consider.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable practical ideas to make your familiar breakfast even more beneficial for your health and well-being.
Absolutely. And if you found this discussion helpful, maybe learned something new, please do consider subscribing to the Deep Dive. It's genuinely the best way to support what we do here, and make sure you don't miss future explorations like this one. Maybe give this discussion a like. Share it with friends or family who might also be oatmeal fans.
Yeah.
And we'd actually love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments, how do you usually make your oatmeal, and what changes, if any, might you try after hearing about these common pitfalls?
Yes, please do. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into oatmeal. We look forward to exploring more sources with you in the next one.